I'm back with another episode of All Things Black. I have two new guests here. They are the directors of Colorism and the Black Body Image, which is a great documentary that can be found on YouTube. So today we'll be talking with them about colorism. So you can introduce themselves as well.
Hey, I'm Justus. Justus, I'm a director of the documentary Colorism and the Black Body Image. I'm a student in Chicago studying film video cinematography.
My name is Terrance. I am the creator and co-producer along with this guy here of Colorism and the Black Body Image. What I do is I have like a professional job while working hospitality management, but also on the side, I am always an advocate for issues that goes on in our community and just trying to spread the word and the message and get it out.
Okay, thank you so much for coming today, Justus and Terrance. And so we're gonna just go right on in it. Right. So our first question today, so in your documentary you had clips from the doll test. So we would like to know, what is the connection between the doll test and colorism?
I think when you're young, I think that we don't give kids enough credit. Because they soak everything in and they're so smart, but it's every day of our lives that we see these things like television. Now kids have access to iPads and tablets, and so when they're selling these products or whatever they're selling, you notice that you always see the fair skinned or light-skinned people that are promoting these projects and these things, and kids see that. So when they go into the store, they're gonna pick out what's comfortable to them or what they're familiar with. And so when that happens, I mean, of course they're gonna go with the white doll, the light-skinned doll, because that's what they're so used to seeing. They're not used to seeing, someone of my complexion or Justin's complexion, on such a platform to where they feel comfortable with saying, okay, that's beautiful, I'm connected to that, and I'm gonna choose this one. That's not always the case.
Yeah, and consider this in the early 70s and 80s when these commercials would come on TV. You would have children playing with white dolls, and you may potentially even have a black child playing with a white doll. So seeing this in your home, you start to think as a child, that must be the best doll. I want that doll. Or those action figures that are fair skinned, I want that action figure because this is all I'm being fed as a child. And I see this when I go inside of the stores, I see all white dolls and stuff on the store shelves. So, Mom, can I have that doll? I remember seeing that child playing with that specific doll. I want that doll, regardless of seeing, rather than seeing dolls with complexions like us or darker complected dolls. So that being a desire at a young age and you being fed this through television, through magazines, and through media and all sorts, that became the toleration for children. They thought that to be fair-skinned was more tolerable, that was more desirable. And so children desire things as such.
Okay. So what inspired you guys to make a documentary about colorism? Was it like one moment, a series of things?
For me, honestly, I've always thought about doing this project. Even when I was younger, I'm 30 years old now, so this was probably something I started thinking about when I was like 16. And I just kept it in my head until maybe the right opportunity or time came along. But it's something that like as a Black person we struggle with every single day, and like we don't even realize it. Like we can't even process that like we have a situation that is connected to colorism that we deal with every day, but it happens so much that like we ignore it. Yeah. So for me, as a dark-skinned person in school, I grew up being teased about my skin color, or I'm turn off the lights, or you can't see me, like like those kind of things. Like when you go to, even as an adult, when you go to the clubs, they tell you that like the club owners, they don't want dark-skinned women in their clubs. They want the light skin, nice bodies, and that's how they determine who they pick to go inside of these clubs. And I'm like, but why would you even want to go to the club if that's their process of letting you into their environment? You know what I'm saying? So you have to deal with that. And then, we get it at home too. We have cousins and parents and, they sit your black ass down or, it's just always something
Yeah.
that's connected to us being dark,
Yeah.
and so it messes with you. And I'm just like, I can't be the only one who thinks about this. Like, I just can't be, and I think
Yeah.
that if we were in a situation where we can fix that or start the process of breaking that down and understanding what that means, I feel like we can save each other's, we can save so much, of feelings being hurt or feeling misguided or misrepresented. And we can better uplift one another because we don't do that because of this colorism thing separates us so much and we don't see it. We don't see it.
And
I agree.
it was always this stigma of me when I was younger, setting these parameters on the standard of beauty, and me being with my friends and them like projecting these ideas that light-skinned women were more beautiful, more educated, and me succumbing to those mental perceptions without even thinking about it. And uh because we used to work together, and he brought the idea to me, and I remember seeing previous documentaries about colorism, and I thought it was insane. But I thought, even though this is like something I've never categorized as being colorism, it does exist, and it has existed even when I was a child. And I noticed periodically through a lot of individuals' lives, it's always been something that has affected them from infancy. And me thinking back to my experiences dealing with colorism, I thought it's really important that we get this message out, because the same fact that it's something that all of us have been affected of, but we haven't spoke on it. I thought that me and Terrance should use this as a platform or as an opportunity to actually get the word out. And that's why we're trying to figure out methods to deconstruct those false perceptions of what the Black body is supposed to be within our community and then internationally.
All right. So and you guys' documentary, you talked about someone being made lighter. It was
Well, like Beyonce, maybe.
Beyonce being made lighter. On like appearing lighter on the like covers. So I found a study that talked about how dark-skinned women and men that were famous and influential, they're remembered as being lighter. And I also found another study that where they talked about when O.J. Simpson was going through his trial, they made him appear darker on, I think it was maybe Time magazine. So what are your thoughts on that in relation to colorism?
Well, I remember me and Terrance, we were talking about how Sammy Sosa looks now. Growing up, when I saw Sammy Sosa, the baseball player, he was really dark. And I'm like,
Yeah. Oh,
that's a positive, in fact, that's a positive factor within our community, because we see a man of color who's really well at baseball. And that's somebody we can aspire to be like. But when I look at him 19 years later, and he's going through this bleaching process, his skin is getting lighter and lighter. And that's just shown how colorism does affect the colored community, in the sense that people really rationalize that lighter is more beautiful, is more tolerated, is more ascribed as being idealized. And so it's no surprise that when we look at the media, how they would change or alter people's complexion to identify a darker complected person as a criminal or barbaric, because we've seen it in movies, The Birth of a Nation with blackface. We have white people dressing and costuming in blackface, and they had a scene where a woman was getting chased by was supposed to be a black male, and she was chased to a cliff, and she chose death rather than to let a black man touch her. And we see this there's like such a stereotypical and racist film even being aired at the White House. Like, this is perpetualizing this whole idea of colorism in a sense, because it stems from racism in a sense. But when we look at it so early in the media until now, of course they would use situations and they would use small elements to depict people of color, darker complected people, as more criminals. So that's what they do within the social media realm and within the media realm, where they would take people that are brown skinned, they will make them lighter if they want them to be projected as more positive, more role model, like more some people to be admired. But if it's somebody that is criminalized, they would first off through text identify Black in a sense as if that's a negative thing, and then describe features as dark, as like a criminal or barbaric or angry, in a sense, just to perpetuate this psychological aesthetic that darker is bad, darker is worse. And I remember me and Terrance were also talking about how we see in movies and TV shows and films how the darker skinned people are like always the antagonists. They don't have anything positive going on with their lives or in their roles. We're talking about, look at Samuel L. Jackson, you know, a dark skinned man. He's always yelling, always angry and aggressive. You know, these are things that subconsciously gets implanted into your psyche, and you start to perceive these things about yourselves within your own culture.
Have you ever seen Marlon? It's on now.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it yet.
Marlon is like a 2019 Martin, okay? And
Really?
I don't even know how it's on TV. And not only that, he even says stuff like, well, first of all, there's his wife. She's like the light-skinned wife,
Okay.
as always. And then she has a best friend, which is a dark-skinned girl. So Marlon always picks at the best friend, calls her nappy headed, talks about how she can never find a man, how she never will find a man, how she goes on dates all the time. And she's like a direct, to me, the lighter skinned wife is like a direct criticism of her best friend, because in always like they'll be going, they dress completely different. The light skinned wife, she's always dressed is really like chaste, and the dark skinned best friend, she's always, not that anything's wrong with it, but she's always more revealing in how she dresses, which is in every episode. I'm like, now I know she's not going to church like this, or it doesn't matter where they're going, they're always dressed like completely opposite. And Marlon, he even says stuff like stuff that's okay, you wouldn't think he would say. Like he's like, you need to watch her. She might not like light skinned people. She might be like the mulatto killer. And he got in when his wife got in a fight with someone at a club, a light skinned girl, he was like, this is light on light crime. Like, it just makes weird stuff. Yeah, it's just very, one, it does, again, puts the dark-skinned Black woman in that same character over and over again. Two, he's really obvious about, the things that he says. And even like the lighter tone man in there, he puts the stereotype on him as well, with the soft and
we talked about that too.
Yeah, we're really familiar with that.
Yeah. So it's really obvious throughout and even the way that the darker tone people in the show talk. So the lighter tone people in the show are really proper, and you have the darker tone people, even the therapist, very loud, like very like the use of more ebonics. Now this is a therapist, a dark skinned therapist. Not that there's anything wrong with talking,
no, it's not,
using our language and our culture, but this is the therapist. She's not going to be in her office talking like that.
Exactly. Okay? In a professional setting.
Yeah, she's going to be more professional. But even in a session, they had her stop. Now, this is during his therapist session. They had her stop to talk about how she's had 5 divorces. And, yes, how she's had 5 divorces. And she's, like, using this very exaggerated tone. And then she leans on Marlon for him to give her therapy. And I'm just like,
Oh, that's
Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with your point. Like it's obvious.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's Marlon. So it really reminds me of Marlon. Huh.
Is it Marlon Wayans?
Yeah, it's Marlon Wayans. The show's, I mean, terrible all around. But I mean, that is like just, yeah, it's really bad.
And historically, we were talking about how how it stems discolorism stems with racism. We were talking about like William Lynch and his methods of causing people of color within the same culture, within the same community, to fight and being divided against each other, putting the light skin versus the dark skin, and all of these things. When we were mentioning like even the birth of a nation, how it's present within our within the media culture, even in the 2019 production, like you said, it's super present in the media, in the media production, even today. And the idea is that like, oh, we know that this colorism does exist, but how do we capitalize off that and profit and get gain from it? We know in history how it's been projected and how it's been successful. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that productions like this would even exist, where you still use the dark skin, light skin as a trope,
Yeah, right.
for comedic purposes.
Yeah, yeah.
We might have to check it out just to see, but I would never recommend nobody see them after what you've explained to me.
Yeah, I wrote I wrote something on it, and like while I'm watching, I'm like, I mean the whole show, like it was the whole show, and then so many things that I thought like, well, he had like a light skinned son, and I mean he had a light skinned daughter and a dark skinned son, which is again is the usual family dynamic in these shows, and he said something about like the daughter being his favorite, like stuff that I felt like was microaggressive that he should have been more, conscientious of while making the show. And the and again the lighter skinned daughter, she was very she was very proper. Now you would think that the son, since he's from the same family, but he was less he was less proper than her, and I'm like, it was just obvious throughout the entire show.
It also makes you want to like comment on his like Instagram or something, because I think like, did you really just sign up to do this for the money? Because that's what it sounds like. Because you can read the script and they give you, if you're a lead actor in this show, they give you a script, they give you the rundown of like what the show is, what it's about, and you didn't think about how this looked.
Yeah, it only ran for 2 seasons, so I'm wondering if someone was like, "What is when he told her like she might be trying to kill you?" I was like, and then when the best friend finally did find a man, of course he ended up he was a dark skinned black man. He was of a darker hue, and he was more of who people traditionally stereotype for black men. He ended up being a cheater, and Marlon found out and saved the day and told her before she married him. And it was just, the whole show is just,
that's ridiculous.
It's not good. It's not good.
I'm gonna try to watch it for my own, like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I can.
You should just like.
But from right now, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it doesn't. Have y'all also heard of the other new show? It's with the family something reunion, or it's another new Netflix show. It has like not Tia.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, one of the twins is in there, and then along with like I think Loretta Devine is in there too.
Yes, that show.
I've heard about it.
I haven't seen it. It's got a couple. It's a couple problems with that one too. I mean, it tries to talk about colorism, I guess, but it does it through like everyone picking at the. Well, first of all, the daughter, she looks almost white, and so then so you see her parents. It's a dark skinned black man and like a like a lighter skinned black woman. Now I didn't understand her in there, but okay, because the other kids, yeah, she just kind of like comes out of nowhere. I don't know why they aren't able to cast a brown or dark skinned girl in a show. So she's there, and they talk about colorism through her lens, through everybody picking at her. So first, her family picks at her for being too light, and then all the dark skinned girls pick at her because she doesn't know who some civil rights leader is, and they have all like 5 or 6 dark skinned girls swarm around her and pick on her because she doesn't know who civil rights leader is. I'm like, we've got that story before. Can we get a different one? We've heard that one over and over again.
I agree.
So I'm not dismissing that, but I feel like we've heard the story. So
and I think it reverts to like having people of color work more behind the scenes to for our stories to be heard and to be seen on such a platform like that. So for me, it comes across as maybe those writers are not black, and maybe they're just getting pieces of what they think we go through and not what we actually go through.
Right.
They're trying to put this in their show to say, oh, we're talking about this, and it's like, no, that's not the real deal. Get some more people of color who are writing, who have experienced this and who lived this, to better tell these stories on TV and film.
Right. I haven't heard, I've done these interviews, but and I've heard, so many dark skinned girls say over and over again how they were bullied. I've not seen that on TV. I have seen lighter skinned girls getting bullied by darker skinned girls on TV several times. I have not yet seen a dark skinned girl who has been bullied for her skin color by a boy or by, I don't know, a teacher, by her parent, whatever, by anybody. I have not seen it.
Yep.
So if you want to talk about colorism, I think we should talk about that too.
Yep. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. I went off on a little rant just now. Okay. All right. So our next question is, how do parents perpetuate colorism so far that you guys have seen?
Oh, you just said something earlier.
Yeah, you talked about that a bit. So yeah.
So
yeah.
For all of us, but I know in my family, for me growing up, if my mom calls me or if I, made her frustrated by something I did or said or whatever, she'd be like, Terrance, get your black ass over here or sit your black ass down, and it's just like, why do you have to call out like my darkness and make it negative, like, you know what I'm saying? And I don't think they do it purposely. They don't, think in that manner, but it's just that it's a domino effect. You know what I'm saying? So her mom said the same thing to her, and then her mom said the same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a domino effect where it falls down on the next generation. But it's just like that's problematic. You know what I'm saying? Like that affected me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, plus I have to go out into the world and deal with me being dark, and deal, and go through that. But then I got to come home and also hear it too. So it's just like I have no way to escape, or I don't have an outlet where my skin tone is celebrated,
right?
Or it's looked at as something positive or good. You see what I'm saying? So and I hear that a lot, even with like my cousins and how she interacts with her kids, or my uncles, how they interact with their children. And it's just like, again, like I don't think it's done purposely, but again, it's a problem.
Yeah, one of the speakers in the documentary that we made mentioned how a relative would get really angry with her and her cousins if they were outside playing in the sun, and she's like, why are you in the sun too much? You're so black. You're really, really black, as if like using black as a derogative adjective to describe a person. And it's like some parents do perpetuate this, because when we had a open mic and we spoke on a documentary, one parent said, yeah, I mentioned that my son is real black, but I don't mention it in a forum to say like that's a bad thing. But he continued to say that when my son got older, he came to me and spoke to me and asked, Why did you use that to describe me? And I always thought that that was a bad thing because you would express like anger, but you would preface it with dark or black. And so mentally, his child grew up thinking that that was a bad thing. And when some parents discipline their children, they use terms like highlighting, oh, yo, black A, yo, dark A, all that stuff. But on the contrary, some even use it with lighter skinned children as well, yo, like yo, white A, yo, bright yellow. Like, why are you using those as terms to describe who I am? And when you preface it with anger or rage, or even in discipline, you rationalize that in a negative consequence.
And then as that child, that's because that's what we're getting, and that's the way that we're shown at home. Of course, when we go out to school, we hang out with our friends, we also bring that same thing to, and that's how it keeps going, because now to those kids, it's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so if your parent don't call you out your name, they like, you know what I'm saying? So we just still carry that with us.
Yeah.
It's normalized. I feel like talking about color with Black people, not colorism, but just color, is just really normal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just something, whether negative or positive, or I guess positive, it's always just a topic in our community. Yeah, it's always a topic.
I agree, and I remember when I first started the process of getting this together, and we kind of like formed the cast, and just what happened, the cast were of dark skin, and I remember Justin saying, we might get backlash because there are no light skinned or fair skinned people a part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think, and I understood
Yeah.
I understood where he came from with that. But for me, I was just like, I don't care, because for me as a dark skinned person, and I have friends who are on the lighter skin and family members who have lighter skin, they don't deal with certain things that we deal with. So
No.
I don't care if there's not light skinned people a part of this. This is our story.
Right.
And we're gonna tell it how it actually happens, because I have a light skinned friend who was also a part of it. And she told me, she said, "Oh, I've never dealt with any of this before." So that tells you, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's not the same experience
things that we deal with. I'm not saying that they don't get it.
Yeah.
But it is nothing like how we get it.
Yeah, it's not.
That's my purpose, of the dark skinned people telling our truth and telling our story and talking about our experiences, because it is real.
Yeah. When I first started doing my interviews, I was like, okay, I'm only gonna do dark-skinned people, and that's how I was at first. I was only talking to dark-skinned people, and then I talked to this one girl, and she's like, oh, maybe you should talk to some light-skinned people as well to get their point of view. And I was just, at first, I was kind of just like, but because I was like, colorism is about dark-skinned people. That was my understanding of it. So, I hadn't talked to any, better tone people, but like you, I was like, okay, it may be better received if you don't have only dark-skinned people talking about it, which is bad. But like, I was talking to this one guy one time, and he was saying how more than dark-skinned people needed to talk about it he was a lighter tone guy. More than dark-skinned people need to talk about it for people to listen. And I was just like, why does it need to be seen through another lens? Or why do other people need to talk about it first?
I agree. And like I said, I do think, lighter skinned people, they do have their own issues.
Yeah, of course.
But like I said, it's on a whole nother different scale. Like, I've never heard, at least speaking for me, I've never heard a light skinned Black person say, oh, I walked into the store and they were following me because they thought I was going to steal. For me, I've only heard that with darker skinned people, and that has actually happened to me. So like I said, when it goes to, there's just different experiences, and I think for us, it's more heavier.
Right.
And it's like I said, it's on a whole other different scale.
I mean, with colorism in general, a lot of people reduce colorism to like dating preferences, but colorism is like so much further than that. Like, as far as with white people, there have been many studies that found that white people prefer lighter skinned black people. One study found that a darker skinned black man with an MBA and managerial experience could go into an interview with a light skinned man with just a bachelor's degree, and the job would prefer the light skinned black man. Another study found that dark skinned black people were more likely to get the death penalty. In North Carolina, they found that lighter skinned women were getting lighter sentences than dark skinned women. In a study with this guy I know, or I don't know him, but I interviewed him, Dr. Matthew Harrison, he found that with lighter skinned women and dark skinned women with the same credentials, so if the dark skinned woman had more credentials, she would get the job. But if they had the same credentials, then they would be more likely to go with the light skinned woman for the job. So, I mean, and then the fact that really they found that more people who are in higher socioeconomic class, they're more likely to marry a light-skinned black woman. It was like 45 to 23%. Lighter skinned people are more likely to be in a higher socioeconomic class, period. So it's not just about like dating preferences or, people's feelings being hurt. It has like real life implications beyond just, what people try to reduce it to. So I don't know if people get, angry when you discuss colorism because they feel like you're personally attacking them, but it's not an attack on them. I mean, it's mostly attack on, white supremacy, but we have internalized it. So
yeah, and like you just stated, the statistics is out there. Like it's proven,
Yeah.
So it's right there in our faces.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna ask one more question, and it is, how can we work to dismantle colorism? I mean, you guys are already doing your work. You're spreading it with a documentary, talking to people. What can we do?
I know you spoke about this, and I like what you came up with how you said we can dismantle it.
Yeah. So like, we first presented, like Terrance, in a group discussion, we first presented like having a conversation first off. Like what we're doing, it's really important to do that, to talk about these issues and to address them and to acknowledge that they exist, right?
Right.
So once we have a consciousness of this subject matter, we would have the knowledge of it and we would have a stronger grasp on the subject at a whole. And then the next thing we were mentioning was the education of it. Start educating youth, because what we realized when many people who discuss their personal experiences in a documentary, they all mentioned what they've experienced as a child, how they went through colorism, what they've experienced, what they saw, and how it affected them as a child into who they are now. It always happens at a young age. And since it's happening at a young age and it's a subject matter that's not spoken on, like I learned about colorism when I was 19 in college.
Yeah.
Like why did it take so long for me to hear about this? Now, if we educate our youth and we start off like within our own households, within our own friend, in our own community, when we start educating them about, hey, did you know what colorism is? Did you know that it exists? Did you know that you being a dark-skinned man doesn't make you lesser than that light-skinned man, or you being a light-skinned woman make you more than that dark-skinned woman? When we start educating our youth and giving them insight that this subject matter actually exists, once they have the knowledge of it, we can destroy it. Why? Because we all, as a community, are accepting of one another. And another person mentioned in the group discussion, like, how about we start loving on each other more? Instead of throwing out these perceptions that, oh, you real black, man, you real aggressive and angry, and so that makes you ugly. Or you real light, man, so you real sensitive, soft.
Yeah.
You real timid, and you let people take it back. Instead of, no, we shouldn't be doing any of that.
Yeah.
And like us being examples to one another, we showing love to one another within our community, saying like, hey, we're all beautiful the way that we were made. We're all intelligent. We all have different roles in life and different goals. That don't make, because you're light skinned, meaning that don't make you better than me, or that don't make me initially even internalize that, oh, you're going to try to get over on me because you're light skinned. We need to start living an example and showing our children that, hey, colorism does exist, but we don't have to live in that false perception. We don't have to live in that false reality. And the main issue is like the youth aren't educated on this subject matter enough. They're indoctrinated with these beliefs through media, through television, through magazines, through video games, through toys.
Yeah.
They're indoctrinated with this. So society is teaching our youth subconsciously to hate darker skin. But we as parents and as adults, as brothers and sisters, as whatever, we're not teaching our children and our relatives the opposite. So to dismantle these false perceptions of color, and I know we're talking about the colorism aspect, but also body image, like what are your body supposed to be like? What's a tolerable form or figure as a person of color, dark or light, or woman of color? When we start actually educating our youth and having these conversations at a young age, we will have the near future. We will have doctors, lawyers, brothers, sisters, all positive and all encouraged about whoever they are or whatever they become based off the melanin in their skin. That wouldn't be a stigma that's held against them because they've already been taught this in their households. They've already been taught that colorism does exist, and the media try to propagate that if you're dark, you're worse.
Right.
But my uncle, my cousin, my brother, my friend taught me that it don't matter how dark I am because I'm still beautiful. And my brother and sisters, they're lighter than me. They accept me for who I am, and I accept them for who they are. So we need to start educating our youth. We need to start teaching them that there is value in who you are as a person.
Right. I agree.
And we also mentioned, and like as far as like the body image, Terrance is a body positive model. You know,
Yeah, I saw that.
a body positive model. And what we don't get a lot is like people within our community encouraging one another and uplifting one another, complimenting one another. Oh, Terrance mentioned it doesn't hurt to mention to somebody, hey, you look really good in those pants or that shirt. You're really wearing those shoes. You look really phenomenal. Like encourage one another instead of having a perception that oh, you just trying to say something like that and get over on me or take advantage of me because I know you just on me. No, we start actually actively encouraging one another within our own community instead of just exclusively having external cultures or races appropriating our styles and forms and showing we don't even tolerate ourselves and within our own community on how we look, how we dress, and the way that our body is formed. Like my sister mentioned that growing up, she'd go outside with our family members and they'll go shopping. And she like, oh, look at this. How does this look? I think this will look really nice. Girl, you don't have a booty. You don't got no booty. You too little for that. You know, our own family members within our own culture and our own race, like already trying to discourage ourselves appropriate within that image. That doesn't fit you. Like, why do that instead of encouraging her? Like, yeah, you would look really beautiful in that. And, you know, promoting this idea that it doesn't matter what form or shape you are or how dark or how light you are, you're still a beautiful person made in the image of God. So you should be a person that promotes that, especially within your own culture.
I agree. Okay. Well, I think we thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you for reaching out.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I enjoyed talking to you guys, and I really enjoyed you guys' documentary.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I'm glad y'all did that.
I mean, you know what? It was like nerve wracking because it was like what, over a year of that coming together. So we went through a lot to get it done.
I'm sure y'all. So how did y'all find the people to do it?
Some of them we both know.
Okay.
I know. Some of them he knows. So it was just about like getting to know them and knowing stories and finding a way to like bring it together.
Yeah. That was primarily people that we know within our circles, and finding people that are comfortable with sharing these personal experiences, and actually wanting to contribute to dismantling these false perceptions of color in the Black body image.
Right.
finding people that are really willing to actually and actively participate in spreading this news about the colorism phenomenon. And those people that contributed, we were really grateful for them because we got into a really personal and intimate space.
You did.
And they were willing to actively express what they went through. And I'm really grateful for that too. Like everybody that contributed to the documentary.
Yeah, shout out. Everybody a part of it, because they were like he said, like it's not easy to be vulnerable and to be open in front of people that you don't know or that you're not comfortable with. So the fact that they were willing to realize that this was a big project and like the issues that we were talking about were real, and for trusting us with them and with their images and stuff like that. Like shout out to them because they were all fearless, brave, and vulnerable, and they accomplished exactly what we wanted them to. And and that you as a viewer were able to see that and see that like it was legit real. Nothing fake was about that. Nothing was, you know what I'm saying, like tweaked to make it look a certain way. It was all raw and real, and what you got was what you see.
Yep.
Yeah, I could definitely tell, and I enjoyed watching it, and I appreciate what you guys have done.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on your show.
I will say your skin is like glowing right now.
Thank you. I've been trying to do a little something, so I appreciate you for seeing me.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was really nice meeting both of y'all. I hope that I see more and hear more from you guys.
Of course, most definitely. All right.
Okay, it was nice meeting y'all.
Nice meeting you too.
Have a good one.
See you.
Okay.